Let's see what we can do. I still have my Firebase documentation open. Here's Google sign in. Let's go to GitHub sign in. How different can it be? Not very different is the answer. Let's go to authentication, sign in method, GitHub, click it, enable it, and I see a thing to copy. To complete setup, add this authorization callback to your callback URL to your GitHub configuration. There's a thing to learn more. If we didn't already have this open, learn more would take us there. So GitHub, before you begin, add Firebase to your project. Did it. Register your app as a developer application on GitHub and get your app's OAuth 2.0 client ID and client secret. So there we go. If you have the docs open, that takes you right to the page you're looking for. If you don't, go to GitHub, find your user up here in the upper right, the user menu, go to settings, go to applications, developer settings. Click on developer settings, click new OAuth app. That goes to the same place that the link in the documentation goes. Here's a direct link to that. Application name, I will call it chat S3 morning. Call it whatever you want. Homepage URL. Can't remember if that's required. It is? Well, for right now, I will say, I'll just give it the link to my GitHub repository for this. That'll be fine. I'll just give it a link to my Chattering project. We can do better than that in a minute, though. Okay, authorization callback URL. That's the thing we have to copy from here. And don't forget to use this thing instead of using your cursor, or you will almost certainly copy an extra character and it won't work. Register application, and you'll get a client ID and client secret. You have to copy those back into Firebase. Client ID, client secret. Hit save, and it's configured. And from there, it works the same as Google authentication. So, in base.example, or base.js, I mean, we have Google provider. Let's do GitHub provider. Change my variable name. And instead of Google auth provider, it is GitHub auth provider. The H is not capitalized, by the way. And I will export it as well. So in base.example.js, I need to do the same thing. Okay, so I'm exporting GitHub provider. So in signin.js, I need to import that as well. So I'm importing auth, Google provider, and GitHub provider from base. So in authenticate, instead of just hard coding Google provider right there, I'll actually pass the provider in as an argument. And then I'll have two buttons, one Google, one GitHub. Sign in with GitHub. Instead of just calling this.authenticate, I'll call an arrow function that calls this.authenticate and passes in Google provider and GitHub provider, respectively. And let's see what happens. Let's sign out. Let's sign in with GitHub. There we go. The first time you do it, you'll need to authorize your app. Go ahead and hit authorize. I got an error this time because an account already exists with the same email address. So you probably got this if you use the same email address on Google that you use on GitHub. No problem. On the sign-in method page in the Google, in the Firebase console, scroll down to advanced and you'll see one account per email address. You can change that. Allow creation of multiple accounts with the same email address. That's fine. If you want them to show as being from the same user, you could always scope things by email address instead of UID if you wanted to. Let's try this again. Sign in with GitHub. And there I am. Three users, all me. Questions? Not that different from Google. You just have to copy something into GitHub and copy something back to get them talking to each other. But the code, very, very similar. Add GitHub authentication using Firebase.